My name's Susan Coleman, and I'm a professor of finance in the Barney School of Business. And I'm going to be talking to you today about the next wave, unlocking the economic potential of women-owned firms. Okay, why are women-owned firms important, and why are they so important right now? The United States is just emerging from the worst recession we've experienced in 80 years. And technically, we're in our 6th year of recovery, although it doesn't really feel like a recovery to a lot of us. Economic growth has lagged previous post-recession recoveries, and although the unemployment rate has declined dramatically, there's still concern that those employment numbers don't really reflect the number of people who are either unemployed or underemployed. So the question emerges for all of us: are we as a nation fully utilizing our talents and capabilities? And this is where women-owned firms come in. According to 2012 Census data, which is the most recent data available on U.S. businesses, there are almost 10 million women-owned firms in the United States, generating sales of $1.6 trillion. Those firms employ 8.9 million employees over and above the entrepreneurs themselves. Now, why is that important? Because the number of women-owned firms is growing dramatically. Women-owned firms are growing from 2007 to 2012. Women-owned firms grew at a rate of 28% compared to 1% for firms overall. And today, women-owned firms in the United States represent 36% of all firms. So these firms are growing very, very rapidly. In spite of these impressive gains, however, the majority of women-owned firms are very small. Fewer than 20% of women-owned firms actually have employees aside from the entrepreneur herself. And in total, women-owned firms account for 7.8% of all employees, 5.5% of annual payroll, 4.8% of receipts. So they're growing in number, but they're not growing necessarily in size. Why do we care about that? Why do we care whether or not we have growth-oriented women-owned firms? According to Lisa Mitchell at the Kauffman Foundation, the reason we care about growth-oriented firms is because high-growth startups are the keys to job creation and leadership in new and emerging industries. Lisa also stated that women capable of starting growth firms may well be our greatest underutilized resource. And that brings us to the central question for today's talk, TED Talk. How do we empower a greater number of women entrepreneurs to launch growth-oriented firms? Well, my co-author, Alicia Robb, who is also with the Kauffman Foundation, and I set out to answer this question. And we used a variety of different methods. We conducted our own research using the Kauffman Firm Survey, which is a data set of over 4,000 firms in the United States, launched in 2004 and tracked over an 8-year period. We drew upon the research conducted by other experts in the field of entrepreneurship, and we went directly to the source. We did case studies and interviews on growth-oriented entrepreneurs. Now, who are some of these remarkable women? Well, one of them is Sarah Blakely. And Sarah Blakely founded a company called Spanx in 2000 when she was 27 years old. Spanx originally produced lower body shapers for women so that women could feel more confident and more comfortable during both social and work occasions. She has subsequently diversified into other types of body shapers as well as shaper products for men. So men, you have been enfranchised. As of 2013, Spanx was generating over $700 million in sales, and Sarah was still the sole owner. So this is a company that she founded when she was 27 years old. Another reason Sarah Blakely is a fascinating entrepreneur is because she was the first woman to take Warren Buffett's giving pledge, whereby she pledged to donate half of her wealth to philanthropic purposes, and she has already started doing that. Our second entrepreneur is Sue Washer, who's based out of Florida. And Sue started a company called Applied Genetics Technologies Corporation, or AGTC. And AGTC is a company that develops treatments for severe diseases of the eye, diseases that can lead to blindness. Sue eventually took that company public and is in the process of transitioning it from an entrepreneurial firm to a more mature and stable firm that is continuing to grow and develop new products. One of my favorite growth-oriented women entrepreneurs is Helen Greiner. Helen Greiner has loved robots all her life. She was fascinated by R2-D2 in the Star Wars movies, which we all fell in love with. So it's perhaps not surprising that Helen started a firm called iRobot. And iRobot produces robots for commercial purposes, but also for national defense. In other words, robots that can be used for minesweepers, and also robots that can go into buildings to detect whether or not there are danger areas, so you don't have to send people in, thereby putting them in danger. Now, one of the iRobot products that you may actually be familiar with, because the advertisements are on television, is the Roomba. And the Roomba is a little disc, it's a vacuum cleaner. And you put it down on the floor and it goes around your house and vacuums your house, which I think is just a wonderful idea. So that you can thank Helen Greiner for that. Helen took iRobot public. She did a successful IPO, and at the time she was only in her 40s, so she said, well, you know, I'm not done yet. So she's currently in the process of launching a new entrepreneurial firm called Sci-Fi Works, which is developing unmanned aerial vehicles, otherwise known as drones. Manon Cox is one of our Connecticut entrepreneurs. Manon turned around a company called Protein Sciences based in Meriden, Connecticut. And Protein Sciences produces a flu vaccine called Flublok. Now, the important thing about Flublok is it's not produced with eggs. And because it's not produced with eggs, you don't need chickens. So Flublok you can ramp up production of Flublok very rapidly in the event of a severe outbreak or pandemic. Our final entrepreneur that I'll talk about today is June Ressler, who is a University of Hartford entrepreneur. So she is certainly near and dear to our heart. June actually graduated from the Hartford Art School and then took her creative energies and turned them to entrepreneurship. And she started a firm called Synergy International Services, which provides workforce and safety solutions to companies in the oil and gas industry. June actually came back to campus for the first time last fall and visited our students in the Barney School of Business, talked about her entrepreneurial journey, her firm today, and where she anticipates it might go in the future. So those are just a few of the people that we talked about. Now, what did we hear from these remarkable entrepreneurs? What are the strategies that worked? First of all, prepare yourself through education and experience. In other words, become an expert in your field. Second, find mentors and role models to guide you on your entrepreneurial journey. Third, launch as a team, because by launching as a team, different team members can supply different levels and different types of human, social, and financial capital. And all of that works to the advantage of your firm. Network strategically. Don't go to every Chamber of Commerce cocktail party. Selectively pick out those individuals and groups that can either provide you with resources, contacts, or information that will help your firm succeed. Hone your financial skills. What do you expect from a finance professor? But as an entrepreneur, you will have to raise startup capital, you'll have to acquire resources, you'll have to hire key people. If the firm is successful and it starts to grow, you're going to have to acquire expansion capital And typically that comes from external equity providers like angel investors or venture capitalists. If you're really successful, you may find yourself in the position of doing an initial public offering, which means you'll be dealing with issues like valuation and also hiring and dealing with investment bankers. So even though you know, as the firm grows, you're going to hire financial people to work for you, you still need to be adept enough in the field of finance so that you can represent your own best interests and those of your firm. Be resourceful, or as one of our entrepreneurs put it, leave no stone unturned. I think of these growth-oriented entrepreneurs like Energizer bunnies. In other words, they sort of go along in a direction, they hit a wall, they pivot, they go in another direction, and they pivot again. So they're constantly readjusting their strategy, readjusting their tactics to navigate their way around or over or under or through the inevitable bumps in the entrepreneurial path. And you have to be prepared to do that. And finally, be bold, think big, and believe in yourself. Now, I would love to spend more time telling you about the wonderful entrepreneurs we interviewed for our book and the lessons we learned from them. However, regrettably, our time is at an end because these TED Talks are short. So if you want to find out more, you're just going to have to buy the book, The Next Wave, which will be available from Stanford University Press in spring of 2016. Thank you.